can trust our government, which of course is becoming less and less. There's less and less people who are that deep in denial, although perhaps not. I mean, again, it's but the point I'm making is you have to lie to yourself more and more to believe what you want to believe, because the alternative is to start letting go of everything we believe and everything we think we know, and that of course is terrifying to people.
But for those who do ask the questions and do research this stuff and go deeper into it, I guess you're also saying then that this is also a path that is that we're meant to tread on, so to speak. What would you say is the purpose for that? Will this lead us into just another rabbit hole, or do you think that this has to do with this idea that we briefly have talked about before, you and me, Aelous, about the kind of the white magicians that are even further up the ladder than the black magicians, or those who are trying to control us, as it were?
Well, I'm not sure that I could posit the idea of white magicians and what their agenda would be, because whatever it would be working through what you term the black magicians. I don't really see it in a sort of dichotomy that way. I think the split is in our own psyche, between our conscious and our unconscious minds. So you asked what those of us who are being drawn or led to investigate these matters, what's the purpose of that? Well, I would say that it's known, within the control system, let's say, that there is going to be a percentage of the population who are discerning, who can see through the lies, and so they are naturally going to be drawn to look for the truth. And so it's necessary to kind of prepare a space or prepare a narrative that those individuals will actually naturally be drawn to, so that they don't create their own narrative, that they don't actually get to the real truth, which is a much subtler, finer thing. I mean, one example I've given before is with the UFO, and I think that a mistake, I perceive it as a mistake anyway, of those that research parapolitics and conspiracy and the nuts and bolts angle of what the hidden agenda is, that they want to keep it within the parameters of what we think of as consensus reality. So we have these ideas about the Bilderbergs and the Council of Foreign Relations and revisionist history and all the rest of it, and it's very much still within the framework of what we know of as reality. And then on the other hand, you have sort of the other end of the pole, you have the New Agers who are just totally off the chart and kind of in la-la land. And so where do these two perspectives meet? And it seems to me one of the reasons that I am interested in what David Icke does, even though I don't really respond to his methods, is that he is taking the nuts and bolts parapolitical conspiracy narrative, he's taking it into the imaginal realms where nothing is what it seems. And I think that's the only way we can actually understand what is going on here, is if we are willing to go much deeper down the rabbit hole. So the same is with the UFO. You see, people who investigate the UFO, they end up getting confounded in the end, because the evidence is so overwhelming, but it's so contradictory. And what they're mapping is, if you research the UFO, it's not a single phenomenon. There's no way to actually put it in a single box and say the UFO is this. It has to be, if it's anything at all, it has to be many different things. And so, but the key to understanding the UFO finally is that it interacts with the consciousness of the observer. It is shaped and somehow framed by our perception of it, and yet the UFO at the same time is feeding us this information, which is itself shaping our perception. So you see, you've got this two-way current. There's a phenomenon that we don't know what it is, and then there is our own perception of that phenomenon, which we also don't understand. We don't understand the act of perception and how there is a creative element to it. And so what the UFO is doing is it's guiding us potentially to this gnosis, this experience of self-knowledge, by tricking us, by giving us all of these clues that will lead us to an erroneous conclusion, which is a sort of simulation of the real thing. And then if we're able to actually see that, okay, this isn't what it really is, this is just a simulation, this is an image of what it really is. What it really is something that we can only experience by looking inward, by turning our gaze from the outside world to the inner space, and then we will see that the UFO is us, and then we will become truth. We can't actually experience the truth outside of ourselves, we can only experience it by being it. And so this is what I would apply to the whole thing, the whole game that we're uncovering now, and specifically to the global agenda, the elite, the Masonic sorcerers, all the rest. This is something we can only understand when we actually realize that all the evidence we're collecting is actually being fed to us to trick us into creating an image which isn't the truth, so that we will then see that what we're perceiving is going on outside of ourselves is an inner process, is an alchemical process, and that there is no us and them.
So is that, do you think, also the ultimate purpose then in that sense? Because I guess either way, if we're involved in something long enough, be it research or being just involved in these topics, researching, trying to grow on a personal, individual level, this is possibly then, if it is true what you're laying out for us here, that indeed is the purpose as well. Or we're going to end up with that realization eventually anyway, right? Or do you think that we'll be sidetracked and lured into an area where we can't, escape from, or something like that?
What was the realization that you thought we would be led to?
Well, the idea that you described, that the key here, so to speak, is to look inwardly. And my point to add to that was that that is something that we will eventually do then in any way. If we study this phenomena long enough, or if we're involved in these esoteric subjects matters and study ourselves long enough, we will end up in that area eventually anyway, right?
I suppose. I mean, it's so labyrinthine that one can be sidetracked almost forever, I think. And I think that's the danger, is that this kind of research and this kind of these fields of knowledge do engender obsession. And so I think it's yes, you could say that if you persist long enough in any direction, you will end up where you need to end up. All roads lead to infinity, as it were. But that's a very long way round, and I think that we can save ourselves an awful lot of time and trouble and grief if we allow that context from the start, which is, it's it's a theoretical thing that many people are aware of, which is that the universe, that reality is a reflection of our inner processes. As a theory, people are aware of this, but as a practice, it's very rare. And I think particularly in these fields that there's something about, if you're discovering this millennial-long global agenda, which is apparently malevolent, which is interfering with and sabotaging, our nervous systems, our consciousness at every conceivable level, which is not just a physical global conspiracy, but a metaphysical cosmic conspiracy, with archons and demons and inorganic beings. It's so vast and labyrinthine, and it's not enough to just make this leap and say, okay, it's all part of the galaxy and it's all working for God. We have to actually map the dark side, if you will. I mean, to my mind, it is not only valid but essential to do these researches into the control system, but to do it always in an alchemical spirit towards individuation, so that there's never the temptation, or rather, one never succumbs to the temptation to point the finger and to project one's darkness outward, or to forget, we can't help doing that, but to forget that we are projecting, that the Illuminati, all of these ideas, they're symbolic and they're metaphoric, and they represent the disowned aspects of our own psyche. Just it's all about the other, isn't it? Whether it's the alien abduction, or whether it's Masonic sorcerers, or whether it's global elite, or whatever it is. These are all aspects of the other, so that they are part I mean, my attempt in understanding these things is to always come back to the idea, and I would say even it's an energetic fact, it's a reality, that we are one species, that we are a single organism, which is Earth stroke humanity. Humanity may exist above and beyond the Earth. That may be part of our evolution or our destiny, but right now humanity is a component in the greater consciousness of the Earth. So we're a single organism. So everything that is happening on the Earth, all of these agendas, these are playing out within the morphogenetic field, the psyche of the species. And that seems to be the only way, the only context that really is going to make true sense of what is happening here, you know, that we're all doing this together. There's only one of us.
So is this critique against the current method of the conspiracy movement? Is that right?
Well, I don't feel too comfortable critiquing, as in, because then I might be pointing the finger myself. I mean, so far as I would criticize, then I would hope it would be constructive criticism, as giving, you know, just giving my take on it. But it is, first and foremost, it's personal, isn't it? Because, you know, I set out, I mean, I wrote Lucid View back in, well, I actually started it, God knows, back in 97 or something. So it took 10 years almost to get it published. And no, it was before that. I started in 94 or so. So anyway, it was a long journey, writing the book, getting it published, and then the blog, and then the podcast. So this journey has kind of reached this culmination point within the last few weeks, where I have really seen this evolution of my own psyche through not just exploring these ideas, but disseminating them, sharing them. This to me was a very transformative process, and that was why I set about to do the podcast in the first place, was so that I could discover new things about myself and find new perspectives, new ways of looking at what I know, you know, what I believe, I should say. And that to me was always my intent, Henrik, behind the podcast, was a self-exploration. But what I noticed happening in the last few weeks, well, rather I noticed it all along, because it, you know, within 6 months, Stormy Weather went from a little podcast that no one had heard of, like 500 downloads a month, to 8,000 downloads a month. And that's in a 6-month period. So it was expanding very rapidly, and I was getting a lot of feedback, and there was this sense, there was a very exciting, very gratifying sense of being part of something. And that, it gave me pause, because I became aware that I was getting more and more into the numbers. I was getting more and more into this, where, you know, this is getting bigger, this is leading to this, and the whole idea of kind of marketing and packaging and branding, just to make it this streamlined enterprise that would head to these wonderful stratospheres, you know, and be communicating to more and more people. And I just suddenly had to stop and question that. You know, what is my motive there? Because you know, commercial success or solvency, what have you, is all very well, but it doesn't mix too well with the kind of work that I was doing, which was very abstract and very esoteric. And so to try and mix that with making a living, I don't think it's really possible without some sort of compromise. So I had to question that. Like, okay, is this really, you know, do I want to incorporate the need for financial stability with what I'm doing here, and therefore kind of lose a little bit of the just doing it for the hell of it? There was that question, and that really the answer was, well, wait a minute, no, I don't think that's a very wise move, because what I see that I'm doing here, as I said, is a